Hi everyone, and welcome to this H1 AMA, where we will go through our H1 plans for 2024. Really, H1 is now until June, so instead of quarter, we have actually changed it to 6 months planning. Before we jump into talking about what we have planned for H1, I also want to talk a little about the focus for decentralization here at Concordium for 2024, and really what it means for product and engineering. I mean, it really means that we want to work even closer with our use cases and with our users and developers. So what that means is we will continue on creating amazing SDKs and APIs, but we will also work even in closer collaboration with our developers and use cases and commercial here at Concordium to make sure that everything we do is in close collaboration and makes that extra difference for the community and the use cases. With me today, I have Erasmus, who is our Director of Product, and we will be guiding you through the highlights of H1. Of course, there's more to come, but we wanted to share some of the bigger topics that we are focusing on and also bringing you on to that journey. So, Erasmus, do you want to start by saying some things?
Yes, thank you so much, Nibras. It's really great to be back. Last time we did this, it was my first time doing this, and it's been such a journey. Not really so used to all the camera attention and to speaking to you people out there, but it's really great to be here. We also got a little bit of comments last time that it wasn't enough excitement going on here, so we're going to try this time, or I'm going to try this time, to actually show how enthusiastic and how excited I am about everything that we're building here. So yes, we're on a learning journey here, and we are doing that together with all of you. Without further ado, I'm going to dig into some of the big topics that we have decided to approach this half of the year. And we're going to have a look here at the roadmap, and we sort of cluster it in two different sections. We have one is we call the token experience, that are for all the CCD holders, the people who are in it to find some kind of utility with the token, to use it in different contexts. And we have on the other side a constituent that is of course super important when you're building a platform like this, and those are the developers and the builders. I'm just going to talk high level a little bit about what we're doing in these two areas. So we are rolling out a new wallet suite. Wallets are of course key pieces of product service that you need on a network like this, and it's very important that they really come out top of class. We're currently rolling that out with a whole new experience, and it looks really promising. You're going to see a lot more on this pretty soon, I would say. So stay tuned. At the core of Concordium, one of the USPs, of course, is this identity base layer identity that is there, which is a really great innovation and introducing a new way of building trust in a network like this. On top of that base layer, we also have a set of identity tools that can be used in different contexts. For example, if you want to go to a website and prove your age, currently that experience is very clunky and, well, not so safe, right? You can just select an arbitrary date and you're in, and that is not really sustainable as the internet grows and develops, and there becomes many more use cases where you actually need to be sure that the people that you're interacting with on your service or website, that they are actually the age, for example, that they claim they are. So we want to use zero-knowledge proofs to let users in an easy way confirm some statements about themselves, for example, that they are over a certain age, or that they come from a certain country, jurisdiction. It can be many different things. Basically doing that without revealing the actual underlying information itself, to make sure that you can actually keep your private information private. Furthermore,
and just on that, as in, I think it's really interesting how we are going to expand beyond the services we have today, but we do have zero-knowledge proofs as an offering today. But going back to decentralization and what that means for us, and putting in the really element of UX that I know Erasmus is really big on, which I think is key for 2024, is we want to make it extremely easy for the developers and use cases to onboard on Concordium. And going back to the ID services, Web3 ID is a massive product for us, and we're really proud of it. But what we've acknowledged and learned throughout the way is we also, as Concordium, need to make it even easier for commercial in-house, but also for our enterprises, use cases, developers to understand how to onboard on this product. So I think that's also one of the things that Erasmus is highlighting here. Is like, well, we have this extremely powerful tool that's called Zero Knowledge Proofs, but how do we make use cases and developers use it for their applications in order to get the most benefit out of it?
Exactly. So it's about taking these existing services that are there, making sure that they are available, that that the developers can build on them, that the users can use them in a structured way. So it's very much about the user experience around that. There is already a great tooling suite out there, and it's really important that we get that accessible and available for the world to use. Furthermore, we are currently looking at rolling out an Ethereum bridge that we are really focusing on the user experience around that, and much more will be shared about that in the not too distant future. Also, the URI was launched, and we are continuing with the distribution and making that accessible, letting it find its place on the network. Furthermore, on the developer experience side of things, we have a suite of SDKs that we are rolling out and continuing to roll out, especially for Android and iOS, and it's going to be really exciting to get some feedback. So all you developers out there, we really hope to hear from you. If you're interested in building on this and especially trying out the SDKs that we are rolling out, please get in touch. We would love to get some feedback on what we're building. Furthermore, we are rolling out what we call a chaperone account standard, which is going to be a network standard that allows what we call non-native accounts, that is accounts that have not gone through the identity check and produced an account on a network, that actually allow them to do a limited set of activities on the network through a chaperone. And that chaperone is a native account, so they have gone through the identity check and are responsible for these chaperoned accounts, or these end-user accounts that come in through them. This is really exciting for us because it's the first time, or one of the first times, that we are developing a standard from early on with the community. So I invite you, we'll try to share some links in the different social media forums. Invite you all to come in and be involved in developing this standard. It's really looking pretty cool. We already have some people in there talking to us, giving us feedback, and invite definitely more people to come and join. Furthermore, we are rolling out some frameworks. These are like more complete tool sets for different use cases. One framework is focusing around the track and tracing, allowing basically, well, we'll talk more about it in a second, but allowing people to sort of follow the whole supply chain, how products move through that. And we also have the real world asset tokenization and RWA, and that's basically a low-code framework for letting assets be tokenized. We'll talk much more about that a bit later. Furthermore, factory patents, that is something that you see a lot in the EVM world. We are rolling out a Concordium idiomatic version of this, which basically allows builders from other ecosystems to come over and start building on Concordium with the shorter delivery times, with something that feels more familiar to them, while at the same time keeping the Concordium idiom and approach intact. Furthermore, as any good developer experience, there's going to be some data access needed. We're looking at both oracles for getting on-chain data, or for smart contracts to get the data that they need, the price feeds, or it can also be non-financial data feeds into their smart contracts. And for those external to the network, if they want to start getting network data in a nice and easy way, we are going to structure that around a data API that's going to be launched also in the coming months. So that was the high level. We're going to dig down in some of these in a second. Yeah.
But
I hand over to Libras, yeah.
Yes, before we jump deeper into these topics for H1, we also want to just highlight some of the releases that we have done end of December, but also beginning of Q1, so January and February. Started off with lowering the transaction fee. So we did release this 7th of February, and we did reduce it by massive 100x. So all transaction fees, simple all the way to complex, are actually reduced by 100x. And I think this was a big thing for us. And what I like about it is that we took the decision, as in Concordium, to listen to our customers and our use cases and really act accordingly. So we were faced with two things here. One was to optimize the WASM engine from an engineering point of view, where we really need to go in, make a thorough assessment from an engineering point of view, and then do implementation on it, and then release it. Because security is of highest standard for us as Concordium, this will take some time. So the decision was instead to not let you guys wait for that to happen. And therefore we reduced it 100x throughout all transactions. But what we will do, so if you did read the marketing brief that was sent out for this, for the lowering of the transactions, we did also explain that in H1, we will have our engineering department look into optimizing the WASM engine, which really what that will make is it will reduce the cost for really complex transactions, which is where the complaints also have been. And I would also say that by all means, it was a valid complaint. We did look into the numbers, and the complex transactions really need to be lowered. The simple transactions of 1 cent euro weren't that big of a complaint. We're pretty competitive there. But what we want to do is, once we've optimized the WASM engine and got that number, as in, okay, this is how much we can optimize it by, and this is how much it will reduce the transaction, we can then calculate how much are we going to increase the X that we lowered to get a good, still competitive number for the simple transactions, but lower the complex transactions. The cost will be lower than 1 cent though for simple transactions. So I'm happy to share that, because that was one of the things that came up, to make sure that we highlight that it will be actually lower. We will never go above 1 cent, but I will most probably say that it will be even lower than 1 cent. But we cannot be as low as now for simple transactions. So you might ask, hey, Nebras, why don't you just keep it at 100x? Well, the truth to that is we have to think about the long-term security aspects of things. And if you have it that low, you need to factor in security into account when you're dealing with a layer 1 blockchain. And going back to security is of highest importance for us at Concordium, we have to balance that. So more information will come. I hope this wasn't too complex to wrap your head around. But I just want you all to, what you need to take away is we acted accordingly. We didn't want you guys to wait. And we are in the background in engineering and product figuring out how we can optimize our engineering platform in order to then make a trade-off about how much we're going to lower it by for simple and complex transactions.
And of course, over time, what we really want to ensure that we can continue to do is that we become and remain a price competitive blockchain. So this is just the first step on a long journey, and we did that with a big bang, with a 100x decrease, which is great. And now it's about how we continue on that track and that journey. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that was one. I'm going to just take this one really quickly. One other thing that we released end of December is highlighting our native EUROE stablecoin that we have partnered with Membrane Finance to bring to all of you guys, the community, and our use cases. This has been really well received, which is amazing, and we can't wait to see how the use cases are also going to benefit from the EUROE in the upcoming months. And then last but not least, for what's been released is, you touched base on it, but we actually have released the new onboarding flow for the CryptoX wallet. Amazing. It's an improved onboarding. We did touch base on this in Q4, telling you that we are thinking a lot about user experience and how can we get a user actually using our wallets, how can we get them into the platform before we ask them for an identity and actually facilitate that onboarding process. So I'm happy to share that when you download the new CryptoX, or if you have the CryptoX wallet, if you make an update there on your app, both for Android and iOS, you will then open the app and then you will actually come straight to the home page. And the idea is that we will add widgets into that, and we can add newsletters into that, showcasing our users what is this about, and making them curious about Web3 and Concordium before we then ask them to identify themselves when they feel ready to do so. So if they like to create a transaction or actually take action beyond just looking at a homepage, we then ask them kindly to identify themselves. And that will then give them the possibility to understand what it's about and how they go about it. So really excited for that, and we really hope you guys try it out and give us the feedback on all social media. So we now want to jump into H1, and as I mentioned, H1 is what we're going to work on until June. And one of the things that Erasmus wants to talk about is this concept that is extremely exciting.
Yeah. So building a platform is super interesting. You are interacting with a community and trying to build that trust machine, that trust engine that sits at the bottom of that and sort of enables other people to build on that platform. And it's important to think about how you make that happen, because it's not just one stakeholder, one user group. There's actually many different types of people with different incentives that have to come together, and it's worth just taking a moment to talk about that. So we can also explain where we are. Just to put this in context, Concordium was developed with some world-class cryptographers who built a layer 1 from scratch, of course taking different components and inspirations from different solutions out there, but really bringing everything together on a very solid core protocol basis. Then we had the network launch, and it was the rubber met the road, so to speak, and the Genesis block was there. You started producing blocks. You start to see how the technology would actually work when it was released into the real world. That's very important when you do these things, right? Because you want to make sure that all your foundations are there, very solid. And we have reached that stage now, and everything looks very good. It looks stable, robust, and solid. And we are now able to go into the next stage, which is achieving what we call the minimum viable ecosystem. So those of you already in tech, you're probably familiar with an MVP, a minimum viable product. That's the idea that you focus on bringing together the sort of a configuration of things that needs to happen before you can really verify that the hypothesis you had about a certain product or service, that they are actually true. And we want to, this half of the year, we want to have like a hyper-focused effort to identify what are the things that is really going to drive us forward as a platform and as a community. So what are the kind of things that we need in there to create like positive feedback loops, and how do those services interplay? And this may sound a little bit abstract, but it's to let you know that this is already informs our thinking, and we are pulling together all these things in order to go into the next stage at some point, which is going to be about scaling the network and start putting more of our focus on the things that we see are really driving the 10x, the 100x growth. So this is a great time to be, because it's a time of bringing together community. It's a time for trying out different things. It's a time also, I mean, it's always going to be like this, but especially for a lot of feedback from the community. So really, again, invite everybody to come in, participate in our forums, and give feedback on where we are. even this idea, right? Would love to have some questions and we can explain more how we're thinking about it and hear from you and your thinking around it. So right now it's a lot about community building, ecosystem building, getting more dApps on the network, rolling out, like getting the feedback and then rolling out the features that we see are really requested and needed and give people the tools that they need so they can go and build for their communities. And speaking of which, here's a feature that we heard a call for in the community, and essentially these are the chaperone accounts. When you come to Concordium, there is an identity check, which is really important. It's a way of building trust and a way of making sure that the network is used as intended. But of course, we also understand that can be quite an adoption hurdle for many use cases. So when you're building on Concordium, you might not want a surface that you're building on Concordium that might not be relevant to your end users, and you still want to harness the power of the underlying blockchain. So what we are introducing here is a standard where a chaperone can allow their end users to actually go and interact with the network, but the chaperone will then be responsible for those end users. So this is a way where we balance the need for responsibility and have like clear responsibility delegations, and at the same time allowing for more flexible use cases. It's really exciting because we are developing this standard together with the community, and maybe I need to talk exactly how we do this, but maybe we can share some links already in the chat or in the YouTube comments here, but we will link to where you can participate in that discussion. It's already in the Discord groups on Telegram, but we will also start spreading it more broadly, and also there's a forum that we will also share some links to, and please go in, participate in the discussion, give us feedback. This is how we build the strongest possible standards together. So really look forward to hearing from you all.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to just highlight about chaperone accounts, because they have been brought up, and I mean, I know that Erasmus also, I speak for both, but we love that everyone is so involved in this, and that's exactly what we want. We really want to include the community to take part and build this with us, as Erasmus was mentioning. We just want to highlight that this is something that we actually have offered, that we previously called sponsored transactions. What we're adding to chaperone accounts is a standard. So we really want to make sure that when someone or like a developer or a use case is building on top of us, and if they want to utilize sponsored transactions that actually have been really well received, we also give the community a standard of how to go about it. So when you as a developer set this up through smart contracts, we actually tell you how to set it up so it's the optimal way of doing it. Going back to transaction costs, like, okay, how can we make sure that our users don't get into the pitfalls of, oh, the complex transactions are so expensive. And then when our engineers look into it, they're like, yeah, but that's because they didn't set it up in the optimal way. And then I tell them, yeah, but that's actually our job to make them aware. So it is really interesting, and I love that Erasmus came up with a name, that you came up with it, Ray, chaperone accounts, because internally we had some naming that I'm not gonna say here because it brought a lot of attention. Yes. And I was like, let's call it chaperone account so everyone understands. The important thing though, because this sparked a lot of discussion, is all transactions on Concordium will still be through an ID'd account. So it is the use case that are gonna make the transaction on behalf of a user if they use sponsored transactions. And I think that's really important just to distinct on, just so we don't get into the misunderstanding about, are we opening up for non-ID'd, etc. And that's why we also wanted to take the time to explain this really thoroughly in this AMA. So yeah, really excited for chaperone accounts, excited to go beyond sponsored transactions that have been well received, and to see where the community alongside works with Erasmus and the team to come up with the standard. Really exciting.
Yeah. Thanks for that. We'll quickly jump to the next. And these are some of the frameworks that are being rolled out, again, with the view to support the community, make it easier for builders to get to where they want to get to with the lowest possible friction. we are focusing on two specific frameworks. One is track and trace, sort of outline, like actually it's almost like its own, how can you put it, like reference project. It became now, and it allows you for supply chain management on blockchain. And it's really interesting. You can see some of the UIs there. It's still being developed. But it's basically a project that you in principle could clone if you're building something in this direction, right? And then start tinkering with it and making it your own and start seeing how it would fit into your service offering. So this is a more kind of full-fledged framework, and much more will come on that I think we're talking weeks now, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we have another framework that we are offering, and that is the real-world asset tokenization framework, and that's a low code, so like kind of like a wizard style that you can fill in your data, and you can start like getting the smart contract output, and you can sort of take those building blocks and make it fit into your specific use case. Again, we are talking I think also weeks here before we have something there live, and we of course will share with the community through the usual channels. I think if there's one takeaway here, is just follow the social media channels.
Yes, that is actually a takeaway.
That must be a takeaway. But yeah, this is where we are looking forward again to those releases.
And just, we did mention in the Q4 AMA, we did mention that we are thinking about how we can make it easier to onboard on some of the verticals that we called it back then. And I think it's always interesting. We are a platform, we are a layer one platform, and of course we want as many use cases as possible to build on top of us. But we also need to listen to the market, and one of the use cases that we have seen come in a lot of, and that is a big strength for Concordium, was real-world assets and track and trace. So in order for us to make it, going back to user experience, how can we make it even easier for some of the use cases to build on top of us without us having to tell them that they need to do all this implementation in order to get started? That's really what this is about. So as Rasmus was saying, everything we do is open source. So if you like to build on top of the low-code framework for track and trace and real-world asset, please go ahead and do that. If you think, hey, I just want to use the back end of it and create my own front end to look even cooler, love to see that, you could do that as well. But it's really just a building block on top of the blockchain to make it easier to onboard when it comes to real-world asset and track and trace.
Exactly. And
yes,
then I hand over to you.
Then it's about, I mean, we always, you can always jump in as well. But the next section we want to talk about is decentralization of governance, which I'm actually extremely excited about it. Because going into decentralization, one of the cool things, in my opinion, about decentralization of governance is how do we, as a layer one blockchain, utilize the platform that we have built and the technology and actually extend beyond us and involve the community into decision making. And that's really what this is about, in my opinion. So we did mention in Q4 that we will be releasing governance voting in June 2024, which we are still on track for. What that means is that we will include 2 members into the governance committee that we have. So the community will have 2 members that are going to be in the committee, and they're going to be part of the decision making that we do. But what I also want us to do in engineering, and really here is where our science team is looking into this, and we of course involve everyone internally, but once again, if you are really excited for governance, for decentralized governance, please ping us and be part of this journey, because we want to extend beyond just the voting aspect. And I really want to see how can we, going back to the decentralization, make decision making actually happen outside of Concordium, and how can we have that as part of some of the applications that we do on a weekly basis here, and how can we have people outside of us be part of that. So that's happening, and that's really exciting.
Absolutely. I mean, again, the first step on a long journey in this direction. So really excited because, of course, governance is at the absolute core of a decentralized network. So yeah, really looking forward to this.
Definitely. And then we are going to release our blue paper, so long overdue. But if you wait for something good, you never wait too long, as they say. But really, the blue paper showcases the seriousness of our work at Concordium. We do say that we are science-backed blockchain, and we definitely are. I mean, honestly, you can say that we were born in the university, and we still work closely with universities, and we also have a full science team that work here at Concordium. And bringing this to the community is going to show that aspect of it. And we really hope that it's going to be well received, and especially the development community will appreciate it. The blue paper really covers all aspects of our blockchain, including the technical architectural, all the way to how the blockchain is implemented. And then last but not least, before we jump into Q&A, is that we will be investigating privacy use cases. This was actually brought up in 2023, like, hey, Concordium, why aren't you offering full private transactions? So what we have today is shielded transactions, which means that you can shield the amount, but you still cannot shield the sender and the receiver's address. So private use cases is when you have everything private. So the whole transaction is actually private. This is something that we will investigate in 2023. What we want to do is actually work really closely with some of the use cases. So we will be working with 2 to 3 use cases to make sure that what we deliver is actually the needed value that what the market is asking for. And then we'll see how that will go, but we will definitely be talking more about that in the upcoming weeks and include you in that investigation process.
Once again comes a call out. So if you are out there considering some of these questions, please get in touch. Let us know. This is how we build the best things together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you're a use case who are like, hey, we actually want private transactions on a public blockchain, as this is, please also reach out, because we still have one spot to fill for the use cases to work on. Amazing. So let's jump into Q&A. And let me just get the Q&A questions opened. Let's see if, do we have the Q&A somewhere? I think it's over here. No.
So I mean, I can start with one of the first questions that I remember being asked while we are looking here.
Maybe we can get them on the screen.
Yeah, maybe we can bring them up here. So a little bit of technical difficulties here. But the first question is about whether we would include actually include like a token that would sit comparable to the CCD at the core protocol layer, instead of just only implementing these as a SIS2 or other CIS standard. And right now, that is not something that we are planning to do. If we see a strong use case or a strong need for it, it's definitely something that we would consider. But at the moment, it's not really something that we're planning. Again, as always, if there is a strong argument in favor of it, this is what it means to be building with the community. We would love to hear the argument. We would love to consider it, but at the moment, it's not something that we have on the immediate roadmap. I think we're getting the questions up now. So if we take I think that was that I just answered. If you take the next one.
Yeah, so what's the Concordium privacy? I mean, now you're going to see that I need my glasses for that. What's the Concordium privacy strategy? I mean, we just mentioned that we are investigating on private use cases, and that we are looking into it. So we're working with use cases, and more to come in H1. But yeah. I can't say fully yes or no to that at the moment.
So Solana released a sophisticated framework to configure assets for complex use cases in an easy way. For example, transfer rules, clawback. Is there anything similar on the roadmap? At the moment, we don't have any standards prepared around this. some of this stuff is possible to do through the existing smart contracts. But as always, if we see a strong, need for a clawback feature, for example, we would also start thinking about a standard for that. Again, as everything in this world, some people controversially say there is no such thing as good design, there's only bad design, and the only question is how bad the design is. Everything comes with a pro and a con, and if we implement any of these things, we want to have a full discussion with the community and figure out what we gain from building it and what might be the drawbacks of doing it. Definitely transfer rules and clawbacks are something that we know is needed for certain enterprise use cases, but it might not be something that is globally needed on the entire network. So it's those kind of details where the devil lie, and that's important that we figure it out and roll it out in a way that's appropriate for the Concordium network. Next question.
Yes. Okay, we have them now, so I'm going to read on this here. So, when can we expect mobile contactless payment using Concordium Wallet, including any plans for Apple Wallet integration? And I think this is a great question. And what I really want to do is I really want to challenge the one who wrote it to actually, hey, come and build it on our platform. So going back to the decentralization, we are a layer 1 platform. This is really where we would love you guys to develop this, and I think this is a great use case. So you can apply for our grant program, where you would be building it on top of us, and you can get a grant for that. So I would definitely encourage anyone who thinks this is a good idea or who wrote it to actually reach out and see how they can be part of the grant program.
Yeah. I want to make sure the link is somewhere. I'm going to repeat this endlessly,
yes.
But that link will be in there somewhere. I should have access to the chat and just dump some links. But yeah, find the grant program, apply for it if you have any ideas. Would love to support this, definitely.
The next question is, when will direct purchases of CCD and EUR-E via the Concordium wallet be available? And I think this is a great question, and really the answer is that we're not an exchange. So we do host the wallet because you of course need to have an entity and an entering point to the blockchain, but we are not an exchange and we really don't intend to become an exchange. So what we do is we partner with exchange and we partner with places where you can go and purchase the CCD on EUR-E. It's all outlined really thoroughly on the website, but also when you go to the mobile wallet, actually, it says something about CCD. If you click on that, you also are going to come to places where you can get the CCD. It's very easy. You can get them on an exchange, and then you can actually transfer them to the wallet, so you know that they're safe and they're stored on your non-custodial wallet, and you're in charge of them. So that's really how to go about it, and the answer to that, really.
I think also we're looking at at least a big goal from my side is to also integrate with third-party wallets this year, yes. And then the environment would look a little different, and something like a direct purchase would probably be more easily facilitated through their services. But more on that later. We have a lot of things coming up this H1. Yeah.
The next question is a fun one, so maybe you want to start with that, Erasmus, and that is, what on the roadmap are you personally looking most forward to?
That's a great question. I personally, building up the identity suite, it's really an interesting one because there's already so much great tooling out there. And you open a drawer over here, you open another drawer over here, and you just see that there's actually a lot of really solid technical work done. And now it's about trying to put it together into a service, bring it to the surface, expose it, and make sure that everybody understands what the service is. And that's actually what I'm most excited about. So it's this thing that on the roadmap here was called like the Identity Services Suite, and really looking forward to dig into that and bring something, because I think there's some really cool stuff that is also just speaking to the moment in which we find ourselves. We're moving more and more online, more and more of our identity and more of our time is spent online, and it is important that we can actually somehow prove who we are, and the people who are providing your services, that they can actually feel secure, that they know who they're dealing with, without at the same time giving up all of our privacy. And I think there's actually a really interesting and great solution lying for that at Concordium, and we need to somehow bring that to the forefront. So that's actually what I'm most excited about, this suite of identity tools, bringing that together.
And I mean, I can just agree. I think that is one of the strengths of Concordium, is the identity and whole the identity framework. And I think it's really remarkable. I was talking to one of the newsletters last week, and from my point of view, I actually think when friends or anyone out there ask me about blockchain, I really think blockchain is extremely underrated, because we haven't really understood the power of it as in worldwide. And I think what you were saying about privacy, and if you think about it, Web 2 is I just give away my data, and then bigger corporations are actually storing it on a central database. And I do think if we can get that knowledge out there, you're never going to turn back as a user, because once you understand how powerful this is, and that I actually can share data and I don't have to compromise everything, going back to zero knowledge proofs, what I think are extremely powerful, I can only tell you, yes, I'm over or under 18, or yes, I am a Swedish citizen, which I am, or not. So I definitely agree on that. One of the things I am extremely excited about, on top of the identity framework, is the whole working closer with all of you guys. I mean, I really love when we do product development with use cases, companies, developers, because that's really the essence of developing amazing functionalities. When we know that what we've built make a difference and actually highlights the need out there, we've succeeded. So I really think it's going to be super fun, and I know it's really fun for my teams, because I know engineers also really love to work closer with the community. So I'm really excited about that as well in 2024. We have done that in the past, but we will do even more of it, which definitely is interesting. But that was part of it. I mean, a lot of things are exciting, but some of it. Next question is, how does Concordium plan to address scalability challenges in decentralized technology? And I think it's a great question, and I think it really depends on what we mean when we say scalability. But first of all, we actually have addressed it in the medium term with our new Concordium BFT, to remind everyone 2 to 3 seconds for finalization, which is amazing, but also we cover up to 2,000 TPS. So that really does prepare us for scalability. And we also, going back to working with our use cases, we actually also work closely with the use cases that require massive amounts of transactions, and we make sure that they implement it in the most optimal way for scalability. If we in the future will realize that we need to update the BFT to handle even higher volumes, we speak about 5, 6, 7,000, we of course are investigating things such as sharding or roll-ups. But we don't feel that we're there yet, but it is something that we have on the back of our minds and that we have our science team look into. The next question is, how and when will Concordium integrate KYC, AML into its ID system, and do these verification expire? Do you want to start with that?
Yes, please. So that is another one on my to-do list for this H1. Compliance and KYC, AML, these processes are of course complex, because it depends on which jurisdiction you're in, geography, like what you're trying to do. It also comes down to what are the needs of those who are asking their users to do compliance. There's a lot of elements to this, and it's definitely not a straightforward answer to a question like that. What Concordium has is this base ID layer, which is of course a key element in any compliance process. And we are already this half of this year exploring ways of integrating into a full KYC process, for example, or compliance process. that would have to happen alongside partners. Again, Concordium is a platform; it's not the one delivering the services. So we are out there. We are already in conversations with the compliance service providers, and we want to build some service for that. Again, with a directed use case in view, so we know we're building the right thing for the right use case. Now, the question of whether they would expire verification like that would really come down to the compliance service provider or the entity requesting the compliance check. Because you could imagine somebody would only want them to have that valid for a week, and some might want it to have it for years. It really depends. In banks, it's often 3 months, and then you have to update it to make sure that the data is still accurate. So it really depends. What Concordium in that context would offer is the lifecycle management of those verification certificates, right? So in a privacy-first way, it would be possible for all entities that connect to Concordium to actually check what is the life cycle of this compliance check status. So in short, it wouldn't be Concordium deciding what the expiry date would be, and we are already in the works of having conversations with the compliance service providers to develop something like that. Comes back to my other thing about being excited about the identity topic, because of course it's an enormous friction in the whole industry. This compliance, it's needed on one hand, right? You want people to be able to engage in safe transactions. Sometimes it feels as an end user, when you use it, it feels very cumbersome, it feels very frustrating. And I think if Concordium can play a part in that, I think we will do a massive service to a lot of people. I find it very exciting, and there's a lot of course, friction to be removed. So
definitely,
really something that we're going to be investing a lot of effort in this H1 and beyond. By the way, it's a big topic, but excited about it.
And one of the really interesting thing is that because it's a credential, you can actually then, we want to also look into how can you reuse it on different applications, of course. So going back to this friction about KYC and AML, it's like, okay, well, if we use Web3 and we use the power of having your own wallet and you actually storing that credential, how can you then reuse it for the application so you don't have to be asked when you go into another bank or wherever that may be. And that's part of the frictionless idea about reusing these applications. I do want to mention that we are actually talking and partnering with Moinmas, which is a partner of ours for KYC and AML. So we will be working with them as well moving forward. But yeah, it's definitely a topic for Concordium for H1 and beyond. I think last question, unfortunately, we do have some more questions, and if we can't cover all of them, please reach out on social media. But the last question of the day that I want to touch base on is, how does Concordium plan to incentivize developers to build on its platform? And I really like this question because I did want to highlight that. Please join us for the next AMA that is going to come up in a couple of weeks, where we are going to present our new development community and also share everything that has to do with what we are planning for the development community, everything about the guilds, the Discord hours on X, Twitter. And part of that is also going to be how we incentivize developers to build on top of us, because we do have a developer ambassador program for that. So please stay tuned for that. And with that said, I really want to thank you all for tuning in for this H1 roadmap AMA, taking your time to listen in and ask these valuable questions. It means a lot, so thank you. And I'm really excited for 2024. And we all, both me and Erasmus, really want to challenge you guys to be even more active than you are and ask us the questions, jump on the forums, and let's make 2024 amazing. So thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you all.